with your chief public defender.
He's the public defender.
Mr. Weeks, please ask the lawyer from your office to go sit down and not say anything else. To try to threaten my children and bring up my children is inappropriate. Go to the back of the room now. That just violated about every rule of professional responsibility that I have never. If you're going to get up here and you're going to...
Judge, I asked you to go sidebar on this matter.
You, sidebar or not, you don't have one of your assistant public defenders say something about my children?
Judge, that same venom that the court is expressing is the same venom that defense counsel had to sit through this entire morning.
She brought up her children multiple times during the trial. Nobody knows if I'm barren or not. They don't know about my children.
Judge.
Sit down. Sit down.
Judge.
Sit down, Mr. Weeks.
Please do not summarily dismiss me.
I'm summarily dismissing you. Go sit down.
I'm asking the court. I asked the court to go sidebar.
Go sit down. You don't threaten the court's children.
Everyone
Your
in this
assistant just
courtroom.
did that. Go sit down.
No one in this courtroom had to endure what we had to endure.
Go sit down. Miss McNeil has made her children a spectacle more than once during this trial. That was her choice. You have absolutely no right to have one of your assistants come up here and suggest something about my children. Now, please go sit down.
Judge.
You're inappropriate and out of line. Go sit down.
Judge, may I have a brief recess?
No. Go sit down.
May I have a brief recess so I can speak to my attorneys?
We're moving on with the sentencing, Mr. Weeks.
So can I have a brief recess?
No.
Thank you.
It's 1:36. Thank you. State, go ahead and call your next witness.
This judge is out of line.
Anthony Montalto.
This judge is very out of line. This judge is very out of line. Very out of line. And y'all wonder why Cruz is sitting there stoic with no face, no emotions. He better not show not one emotion. Rather you say he's stoic than that he has any, because any emotion he shows is going to be used against him. He deserves to go to jail. If you believe he deserves the death penalty, I'm not going to dispute you there. But attacking the defense attorneys and their families for them doing their job is against the canons of ethics. It is against the canons of ethics. And then when the public defender comes up, so she's highly emotional.
Good
Boy,
afternoon, sir.
Ain't no way.
Mr. Montalto Jr. or Senior that's going to be speaking, or both?
The third gets to go first.
Okay, sorry, the third. I just was trying to indicate that you were younger. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Please tell me your full name or state your full name for the record.
Anthony Vincent Montalto III.
State whenever you're ready.
Mr. Montalto, would you like to say something about your sister Gina?
Yes, I would.
Please go ahead.
Please take a moment to like.
Yes. February 14th, 2018. I was at Westglades Middle School in my 5th period class, filming a project with my friends, when I heard a fire alarm over at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. I then heard gunshots and ran inside. I sat on my desk and I felt something strange. I didn't know what it was until I felt a large pain in my chest. I realized it was a message saying my sister, Gina Rose Montalto, would not be coming home today. I ignored it out of hope, and I waited until I was clear to go home. I got on my bike, and I rode as fast as I could. I dropped my stuff at the door, and I yelled for my mom and dad. They were leaving to go see if Gina was safe. They told me to wait at home with my uncle. At 10 p.m., they returned as I was eating dinner. They had tears in their eyes. They said she was dead.
Bro.
The worst part about it was, that morning, I did not say goodbye to her. Gina was my only sister. She was fun to be with. She was really smart. She would help me whenever I needed it. I will never have that again. I will never be able to watch TV with her, talk about books with her. Every day, I walk by her room and see that it's empty. Every day, I see pictures and I think about her. Every day, I wake up and I remember that she will not be there. It's a great pain that only I feel. To go from a younger brother to an only child in less than 6 hours is a dramatic change for anyone. Every day, I wish I could come home and see her again. Every day, I wish this had never happened. Every day, I wish I had said goodbye like I should have. While this reality I now live in is an unfortunate truth, an even more unfortunate truth is that this country has forgotten who the victim is. The murderer is not a victim of drinking during pregnancy. He is not a victim of mental health issues. He is a murdering bastard that should be made an example by being sentenced to death. He shouldn't live while my sister rots in a grave. The jury has failed the families, the victims, and me. Was this mass murderer a victim when he put the gun to my sister's chest and shot her? Was he a victim when he shot her again? Was he a victim when he shot her 2 more times on his second pass? Some jurors may have thought so, but I know he is just a murdering bastard. I'm speaking about this today because I've held my tongue long enough. People have heard from adults and parents, police and medical staff, but they haven't heard from me. A boy whose life was changed in a flash when this murdering bastard chose to kill my fun-loving older sister, Gina Rose Montalto.
I would say type murdering bastard
I
in the
hope the jurors
comments,
that allowed him to live
but I don't
will
want
regret their decision
YouTube
after
to
hearing this
flag
from you
it.
today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. State would next call Mr. Tony Montalto.
Good afternoon, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down. Please state your full name for the record.
Anthony Vincent Montalto.
Okay, state whenever you're ready.
Mr. Montalto, is there something you'd like to say on your daughter Gina's behalf?
Yes, there is.
Please do so.
I will begin with some positives by thanking the Eagle Staging team for helping our families endure the hours spent in the courthouse. By thanking you, Judge Scherer, for presiding over the trial with all its twists and turns, as well as keeping the press at bay while allowing them to inform the public. You were as compassionate as the law allowed to our families. Thanks to the state attorneys that prosecuted this case for your dedication, your professionalism, and constant communication with our families. To the victims advocates team, thanks for sitting with us, letting us vent our frustrations and answer an untold number of questions, from what to expect next to where is prosciutto. This case, with 17 innocent students and teachers murdered at school, is why we have the death penalty in Florida's laws. If the jury had followed that law, if the jury took in the evidence presented, there is only one logical and fact-based outcome. Sadly, the jury ignored the facts and went with emotion. They worried about how they would feel if this murdering bastard was put to death by the state of Florida for committing this heinous crime. They were selfish and misguided and allowed prisoner number 0893407 to avoid the punishment he deserved. The jury was worn out and did not want to be sequestered. The jury instructions were complex, and I believe these factors combined
Ain't that the
and
judge?
led to a less than thorough deliberation process.
Ain't that the judge? For the
Did
jury
they
instructions?
consider what kind of message their verdict sent to our nation's students and teachers when they found a way to excuse the murder of Gina and the others? Did they consider how they would explain their verdict to the siblings of the victims, as my wife and I struggled to do? The current requirement for a unanimous decision for a death verdict is tough to meet. It allows one activist juror with preconceived bias against the death penalty to swing the case in favor of evil. Once one juror shows sympathy, decides that they can't live with the tough decision to hold a murderer, and in this case, a mass murderer, accountable, it relieves the others and allows them an avenue to avoid voting for the death penalty. The vote is not to put a random individual to death. It is called the death penalty because it's supposed to be imposed due to the actions of the convicted murderer. Assuming that's supported by facts, as the jury acknowledged clearly in this case. An interesting historical fact is that now two of the most infamous mass murderers in Florida history, Ted Bundy and this murderer of my child and 16 others, did not receive a unanimous verdict of death in our state's courts.
Ted Bundy was put to death. Is it federal?
Perhaps it's time for the state legislature to make a change back to a simple majority, or perhaps a supermajority
Not Ted
of
Bundy.
9 votes out of 12,
Ted Bundy
to
was
impose the maximum
killed.
punishment when the aggravating factors warrant it. This would be more fair to the victims.
I agree with
My
radioactive
beautiful,
girl who
bubbly,
said
and kind daughter
that.
deserved to live a happy and full life. She should have been protected at her school from the monster sitting here with no less than, 6 BSO deputies, as he enjoys the protection of his rights in this courtroom. I applaud the court and the prosecution team for following the ideals of our justice system, as the evil murderer enjoyed a fair trial. I don't believe the case was fair to the victims. The court allowed the defense to show every aspect of prisoner 809-3407's life prior to the execution of Gina and her classmates. Pictures showing his smiling face, while at the same time claiming life was so tough it justified the mass murder of innocent students and teachers in school. Our families were prohibited from bringing photos of our murdered loved ones to the courtroom. We couldn't even wear bracelets or pins to court to represent the victims.
I didn't do it. It's not me. That's not me. I don't want to use Law and Crime's feed. I really don't. Let me see what other feed is out there. I do not want to use Law and Crime's feed. Okay, so it's not.
Our families were prohibited from bringing photos of our murdered loved ones to the courtroom. We couldn't even wear bracelets or pins to court to represent the victims.
All right, it's not me.
For themselves. Have the jury instructed to disregard our words. The system is biased against the victims. It trampled the First Amendment rights of my family in a misguided effort to protect the
That's what I
perpetrator
thought. I
of
know
these
he
heinous
was. He was
crimes.
died by execution.
This injustice must be fixed. The victims' rights must be recognized.
No, I'm not using law and crime.
As for the defense team, you had a job to do. You had no case because the facts of the cold, calculated, horrific actions should have sealed this mass murderer's fate via the law. Somehow, though, you all managed to be petty and marginally professional. You disrespected the court in words and action. You laughed and joked with the twisted and purely evil man you defended.
Wake up, sir.
You brought in talented out-of-town personnel to bolster your team and help represent the murderer of my child. No expense was spared as you sought out experts in established and in questionable science, many of which you did not use as you chose to prey on the jury's emotions. What was the cost of prisoner 0893407's defense to the taxpayers of Broward County?
Boy, I'm not losing my job
That
because you want me
number
to defend him
has yet to
poorly.
be revealed.
I'm not, boy, please. Boy, as soon as I'm
Those
done with law
citizens should all
school,
ask
I
why.
passed the bar. I'm going to
Why
be a
was
defense
so
attorney.
much effort put towards this prisoner? While in this very building, the same week his verdict was read, 2 other murderers were sentenced to death for their crimes.
He was dozing.
Quite frankly, you had no right to ask this jury for mercy. He showed no mercy when he shot my forever 14-year-old Gina in the chest, just as he thought about doing when he searched the internet for months before. The dirtbag even came back and shot her on a second pass. Unbelievable. As I read to the court last time I spoke here, Gina loved life. She loved her family, and she was literally a lifesaver. She would have gone on to change the world had she been able to grow up and fulfill her potential. My family had hoped this jury would follow the law and vote to give the lowlife admitted killer the maximum penalty allowed to the fullest extent of the law. We expected the admitted mass murderer to die in prison and at the soonest possible opportunity under the law. He should not be allowed any kind of life, any joy, or any time to reflect quietly on his continued existence. We all have choices to make in life, struggles we must all work through. Despite these struggles, we should look to help one another. Yet the dirtbag murderer, who has now gotten a fair trial, chose to kill and maim as many innocent students as teachers as he could, without remorse, without compassion, and with extreme prejudice. He deserves the same treatment throughout his stay in the state penitentiary system. He has had a lot of help throughout his life, and yet he chose to attack our nation's future by shooting up a school. The murdering bastard that took my daughter's life has benefited from the grace and protections of every system our society offers. He should now be placed in a correctional facility where he is forced to interact without those protections.
Oh, no, they still got to protect him.
The misguided jury thought prisoner
Kind of.
0893407 was failed by society. To be clear, the system, schools, mental health professionals, law enforcement, and now the justice system failed my daughter Gina, her classmates, and her teachers, which he chose to murder. A planned, cold, calculated, heinous attack where the monster chose to pull his trigger 139 individual times. Today, the court prepares to sentence this admitted mass murderer. However, the legacy and greatness of the victims is being preserved and extended because Stand With Parkland, formed by our damaged yet amazingly resilient families, succeeded in creating the Federal School Safety Clearinghouse, which today begins a 3-day national summit on how to protect America's schools.
I'm curious to know.
As for my wife, Jennifer, my son, Anthony, and our entire family, we will remember Gina every day. We will honor her memory at every opportunity. We will work to make our nation's schools safer for other students and teachers. And the Gina Rose Montalto Memorial Foundation will help others achieve their goals, spread kindness, and keep Gina's light shining for all in this world to see. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Montalto. Judge, may I have a moment to see who else we have? Thank you.
I don't have a problem with calling. Like I said, there was one person's the statement, the victim impact statement.
That's it for witnesses for today.
Okay, and then tomorrow.
The victim impact statement. Give me one minute.
1 o'clock, 1:30, whatever it's supposed to go.
Okay, does that suit the defense? All right, we'll start at 1:30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tomorrow, we're in recess for today. Thank you.
All right, we're in recess. So there were some things that had taken place prior to this, and since they're in recess for today, it's probably not going to be any commentary or anything like that. So we can go on ahead and do away with this one. Let me see. There was something I was trying to find. Oh no, he is definitely evil. I'm going to drop the link and invite anybody up who wants to discuss this. If you want to discuss this, I'm going to drop the link. Oh, sorry. If you want to come up and discuss it, it would be nice. If you want.
Hispanic Heritage Month. The power of our community is
Oh.
in our diversity and
Oh, got it. Okay. To come up and all right. And even if you wanted to come up and discuss, I'll give you the option as to whether or not you want to be on camera. I just need to be able to hear you. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to, but if you want to come up and discuss, you're more than welcome to, and talk about your thoughts relative to this given situation. There was an exchange of words that took place prior to me going live. And sorry, I'm trying to multitask here, so if you'll indulge me for quite a minute, just a little bit of a minute. Okay, let me not hear myself. Got it. Okay. Go ahead and pin that message. So it's pinned to the top if you want to come up and discuss. The link is right there. You said, oh, and I don't feel bad for Travis for what he did see. I just see where the system actually failed a sick person. Yeah, that's my whole thing, is Oh, speaking of which, so I'm a member of the National Anger Management Association by being an anger management specialist. And there was a newsletter that I had just gotten in my mailbox. And I'm going to put that newsletter on the screen. And it talks about the trauma of men and boys, you know, and that couldn't have came at a better time. That could not have come at a better time. Here we go. All right, good. Let me see if I can blow this up. Let's see. It's about as much as we're getting out of this, much juice as we're getting out of this. Yeah, let me see. Can I put it in the middle? Nope. All right, so let me go on ahead and stop sharing here and get here. Like I said, I tend to focus on the trauma. You said, so I've heard of YouTube randomly unsubscribing people from channels, but never randomly subscribing to people's channels. But I've never heard of Instructor Mike that I know of. Welcome. Would you like to stay? You can if you want to. I mean, you don't have to, but hey, welcome. Court's in session. I am not a judge or a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I'm just playing one on TV. Why not, right? All right, here we go. Let me go ahead and share the screen. So what we've been talking about is the trauma of young men and boys. And I think this is, like I said, I'm a member of the National Anger Management Association. And so this came from there. This is in our newsletter that just came out, The Crisis of Men and Boys. And in no way am I trying to provide an out for what Nicholas Cruz did. In fact, there is no excuse, none whatsoever, that what he did was evil reincarnate. It was pure evil. And whether or not he deserves death, I leave that to you and your opinions, your beliefs, whatever that may be. The jury decided that he doesn't get death, that he gets life in prison without the possibility of parole. And what we've been going through, or what we've been hearing, has been the sentencing trial of, or the sentencing hearing, if you will, of Nicholas Cruz. Right? And so instead of putting the victims and their families through a trial to get to the guilt innocence, he pled guilty and has no choice but to go through the sentencing phase. For I'm sure if he had the ability to waive it and just go straight to jail or death penalty or whatever, he probably would have done that. But I believe he has no other choice but to go through that sentencing phase. That being said, hey, Christina, I see you up here. Hey. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, great. And then I'll open it up for you. Sometimes people don't understand the process. Oh, Mary Jane, hey, y'all are hitting the stream for reals. All right. Sometimes people don't understand the process of understanding that, one, the defendant still has a right to a fair trial. Not a trial you like, not a trial you don't like. Just imagine if you were in the position, not necessarily of the defendant as it relates to this school shooting, but as the defendant in a criminal matter, where the state was automatically willing to put you to sentencing without the defense putting the state to their proof. And we got to be careful, like I've quoted Immanuel Kant before, act in a manner so as, I'm trying to paraphrase it, but it's act in a manner so as whatever we choose would be willed as universal law, for the lack of using the exact quote. So are we willing to say as a society that we will it as universal law that the government, by way of the prosecution, state's attorney, defense attorney, or what have you, are we willing to say that we have those flags that say, don't step on me? There are some people who don't like heavy government intervention and want to be free from it. But are we willing to give up that government intervention when it comes down to a person being charged with a crime without putting the state to their proof to prove that person in fact guilty? And then are we willing to sentence a person to death or even life imprisonment without putting them to certain aspects of their proof again? I will hold off on the newsletter and I'll open it up for the people who I graciously am humbled that they came up on the panel. So Christina was first. Please, by all means, speak freely.
I can feel for both sides. I mean, what he did was truly devastating, and I've been a victim. My father was murdered, uncles murdered. I've been on both sides. But what I was watching, what I was listening to was very hard to listen to. I guess because I just feel like hearing all the hate and wishes for him to, I don't know, I guess because I've been a victim as well. It's hard to listen to. It's even though I know what he did was evil, it's just still really hard to listen to that. And I feel for them, and I'm just gonna pray for them that they find peace. I know it's gonna be hard because I still struggle, and my dad was murdered many, many years ago. But I'm going to pray for them.
Thank you for sharing. And my condolences on your father's passing, like you said, many, many years ago.
Thank you.
Mary Jane, how are you?
Hi, yes. Gosh, I didn't think I was going to be doing this. So no makeup, hair crazy, but
Beautiful. You're fine.
it came up on my feed. And then when I saw Christina's comment, I just, listen, and I'm so sorry for your father. And I'm an emotional person, so don't discredit me for that.
No.
I came from Florida. I live in California. I understand. I could never imagine the feeling. I have 2 children. Losing that. That's tragic. That's torture. You never get over it. But you can get past it by forgiving. And it sounds so crazy because I'm not even a religious person. But I know that this hate and this vitriolic feeling that they have toward this murdering bastard he murdered innocent children and teachers. Oh, we can get into how the police were a little wimps and didn't help, and I would fucking sue the whole damn, but that's another story, another time. What these families need to do is change the laws. Simple, common sense gun laws. I don't give a shit about the Second fucking Amendment that was made when muskets and civil wars and everything else. You want to take the Constitution, you want to take it literally, you're going to get this again and again and again and again. Just wait. Yeah. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I hope to God it doesn't, but I'm telling you, it will happen. Another school, another school, another school, another school. Period. Change your gun laws. Get DeSantis and all those fascist GOPs out of fucking Florida because it's a cesspool. I lived there for 30 years. I couldn't wait to get out. Yeah. And Vern Buchanan, the Congress. Oh, I could spiel a lot of things. For the victims, parents, and families, my heart goes out. But you need to forgive, and misdirected anger and hatred never solves anything. What they have to do, instead of praying for somebody else to be murdered, instead of praying for more devastation, more death, what they need to do is forgive and start to work to keep their daughter's memory alive by changing the gun laws, by helping other children, other possible, you know, if you think about other people going through the same thing and take the burden off yourself, because nothing's going to bring their daughter back. Nothing's going to change anything from one moment ago past. Murdering this murdering bastard, putting him on death row will not heal their pain.
Yes.
Forgiving, changing the gun laws, and moving forward. That's it. You know what this country is going through now, and we're all living through it.
Yes.
We know the history of what has happened, and we know what's going to happen and it's going to get a heck of a lot darker before it gets lighter. Everything happens in cycles. We're going through a huge karmic cycle. Mother Earth has fucking fed up.
Yeah.
And before this earth is on fire, there's going to be a lot of shit going down. Lots. So hang on to your hats, stay in the light, be aware. I don't even watch the news anymore. I used to have facts and figures being at my fingertips at any given moment. I got sick. 2016, I woke and I could not believe my countrymen were racist, disgusting, hateful, greedy, selfish people. And I've had millions and I've had nothing. And I've had millions again and I've had nothing. So let me tell you something. I've been a have and I've been a have not. Yeah. My children have just been haves, so they have no clue. Never been down. My daughter's an influencer living in Laurel Canyon, multi-millionaire, beautiful boyfriend, beautiful family. We have a blessed life. But I'm so aware of the pain that other people are struggling with every single day. And I get off on this tangent, and I'm sorry. And I'm going to start my social media, and I'm going to get more stable in my thoughts and my thinking and less emotion, because I have a lot to say about a lot of things. And I thank you for this opportunity. I had no idea I was going to do it. I've never, ever spoken, ever. I don't like public speaking, and I need to take some courses on a lot of things, and this being one of them. But I wish you all blessings. All of you who I don't have any idea who you are, make it the greatest day. I send you energy of a high vibration of strength and love, and thank you again.
And I appreciate you. And I just want to say that your voice matters. And it's not about if we all agree to every point. It's about allowing that person the ability to express. And you have.
Can I interrupt? I want to make a difference between hate speech and free speech. It's not the same.
It's not
the same.
Amen. That's not the same.
And we need to ignore this rhetoric from Kanye West.
Yep.
Yay, whatever the fuck he wants to call himself. The Kardashians bullshit. All the fucking bullshit that's going on in the world. We need to be more kind. We need to trust in the kindness and love that this universe has so much of, because there's no shortage of food. There's no shortage of I mean, there's no shortage of anything. These homeless people, they don't need to be homeless. People who are starving, but there's going to be food shortages. There's going to be so many things that are, and you can look back in history and just say, another depression. But with social media and the internet, it's going to be a lot of trouble. And with Elon Musk buying Twitter and Kanye West buying Parler, hold on to your hats. Trump is still there. Jared Kushner just came out with a book, by the way. 7th grader could have done a little bit better. But so I just want to say, hate speech is not free speech. We cannot allow any, from Trump making fun of that man who was disabled to him rating women. This misogynistic culture has got to change. Look what's happened in Iran. Look at those poor and all those Gen Zs. Do you know the 10 and 12-year-olds that are going out, knowing they're going to be killed, knowing the morality police is going to get them, rip them out of their houses and throw bullets in them after they send them to, Evan prison? It was on fire the other day. Yeah, okay. When Iran shuts down its internet, you know damn well it's murdering. What are we doing? It's coming here. You know the way the laws are going. Everything swings. The pendulum is swinging the other way. Is it scary? Yeah. That's why there's always darkness. There's always light. Stay in the light. But we have got to keep these conversations going.
I agree with that.
Yes.
Hines. How you doing, Hines? Thank you, man.
Good. How you doing, Mike?
Doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I can feel for these people that don't believe in the death penalty, but I can also feel for the families, because these people, for this guy's entire life, are going to be paying their tax dollars to support him, give him health care, give him a sex change if he wants it, whatever the state of Florida is willing to give him. You know, do I believe that this person should be put to death? Yes, I do. I do. Because he is a sick individual that just needs to be eradicated so it never happens again. And to show other people what happens when this does happen.
Let me ask you a question. If it's not too much trouble, will it happen again if he's put to death? Now granted, he won't do it, but will it happen again?
Most likely it will. I live in Illinois where the Highland Park incident happened. Okay. And very sad situation there too. Okay. But.
And we don't have a death penalty.
Correct. We do not. We did it one time, but that was signed off by one of our former governors that, of course, he was convicted of crap too. Right. But, you know, the way I look at it is that, you know, people talk about stricter gun laws. Okay. And I agree that we need different gun laws in our country. But stricter, no, because criminals are still going to get guns if they want them, because they're out there. They're going to get them from across the border. They're going to get them from mail order. They're going to make the damn things, whatever they want to do to get them. And then what are you going to do if there are no more guns? You can outlaw knives, baseball bats, rocks. What's next? You can shake your head all you want, okay, but the fact of the matter is
there are no guns in Great Britain.
That's not true. That's not true. There are guns in Great Britain.
So this is how I want to moderate this. Notice there were some things that Mary Jane said that I didn't necessarily agree with, but on my platform, I allow people the room to have a voice, because that becomes part of the problem too. And I have to be honest, I'm guilty of it. We can become so immersed in our opinion, we shut off another's, and that can become a trigger to violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So continue, Hans. And then I'll give you room for a rebuttal, Mary Jane, and then we'll move on.
Like I said, we do need a change in the gun laws. Okay, but we also need stricter penalties for people that are, even if they didn't commit a crime with a weapon, if they're caught with a weapon illegally, they need to be punished harder. So maybe they'll learn something instead of going back out on the street and getting them and doing it again.
Judge Mike, can I just say something real quick?
Go ahead.
Share
Mary, you're next. Okay.
Share something. I have two sons, 27-year-old and a 19-year-old. And we had a discussion at the table about this. And my 27-year-old, he said, just like Hines did, you know, that they should have sentenced him to death. And I disagreed. And we all have different opinions. And gosh, they're my sons, but I let them have their own opinions about how they feel about certain things. But it's important as a family that we speak about these things together as a family. And I don't want my son to forget that the humanity, like, I don't want him to have this hate inside of him for another person, even though that person committed a crime, just like the people who killed my father. It's important to me and my family that we don't build up on that hatred. About the guns thing, my sons want guns, but in my home, guns are not allowed. I just feel like sometimes, especially right now in these days, a lot of people are on high, their emotions are so heavy. Having a gun for me, I just don't know how I react to somebody confronting me on the street or anything going on the street. Then I would feel like, oh, I have a gun on me, I could use it. And that's something that I don't want to do ever in my life. So with the gun thing, I love, first of all, Mary Jane, if you do have a channel, I would love to follow you. I love a lot of the things that you said. You're up on everything, and thank you again. And I, I love how you're running this because you are being respectful for everybody's opinion and beliefs.
Absolutely.
And thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. Absolutely. Mary Jane, you guys said it's going to give you room for rebuttal, and then Jen.
Yeah, I told you I have things to work on. Well, that's one of them. And in 2016, well, because you know what it was with me? All my life, I was clueless. I was in an airline. I was an entrepreneur. I had businesses. I was busy. I was raising children. I was very, very strong and very, very independent. And I was in my own world, and my kids were privileged, private schools and safaris in Africa, European vacations, cruises, because I divorced their fathers and thought, I want them to be, have a different lifestyle. And so I worked really hard. It was wrong. It was stupid. I realize that now, but I did it. And so when 2016 came, I was like, what? I could not believe it. And I'm too old to say that, but that's my issue. So it took me several years to realize all of the things in this country that are so wrong. I mean, I always knew that our prison system was for profit. I always knew that our healthcare system was for profit. I always knew that they want to keep you sick. I always knew there were problems with the Democrats, with the Republicans, with a general global feeling of, okay, I get it now. I didn't get anything. I could not believe it. I mean, in 160 countries, America is 106 in hurting its and the death penalty. I mean, we are not a kind country. We are number 5 as far as violence. Well, I know there are men, okay, and I'll say men because that's predominantly the conversations I get involved in. They want their guns. They want their guns. Violence begets violence. And I don't care what we talk about, we are never going to change one another's minds. So I respect your feelings being the antithesis of mine, but we need to change the laws because in England, look at Switzerland, look at Israel. You either have a gun in every single house and everyone respects that, or you have no guns for the most part on the streets. And you cannot say, I know it'll take a long time. I know criminals will get a hold of guns. I know half the guns out there are all stolen. But you can't be, involved in all of that. You have to piece it apart one by one. Start by taking, fashioning your laws after countries that have no school shootings, that have no violence. Why are we so stupid? We're stupid because we're greedy. Money talks. We want the money. Every politician that goes in, that's elected to Congress, becomes a multimillionaire. Yeah, everyone's feeding everyone else. It's a fucked up system, but we gotta fix it. Or our children's, if we have a planet left. And that's all I have to say. And Christina, when I get my social media up, if you DM me or somehow get in touch with me now, because I'm going to get it up and started next month, December.
Yeah, I'll follow you too, Mary Jane. I'll follow you.
I love you all. And thank you for educating me. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for making me listen to that man and not be angry because this is the whole thing with me. If your actions emit a response that you're looking for, then I'm all for it. If by putting this murdering bastard, I love that phrase, that boy when he was talking about his sister, I just felt so sorry for him because I knew what he was feeling. I just know because I'm an empath. I feel everything. And the loss of your sister and not saying goodbye to her. Okay. But if killing him, if putting him on death row and murdering him was going to do something good for anybody, I would be all for it. He does need to be eradicated in a way, but we can't do it. We can't judge and we can't do it. We cannot kill him. We can change the laws so that this doesn't happen again. That's what we can do. We can't change the past. We can just go forward. That was my main thing. And that's why I get so passionate about things, because I see people wasting their time. You know, if you want to just spiel, if you want to just talk, if you want to just hate, that's fine. But we have 24 hours in the day. We're wasting time.
What do we all think about? What do we all think about parenting?
I got lots to say on that one.
I got lots to say about that too. You have to parent your sons just like you parent your daughters.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence.
Mary.
There's a lonely single man pandemic going on. These men do not understand what is happening, but I'll tell you what it is. Women are evolving and men aren't. And we are not taking it anymore. Gone are the days when you're 18 and you're thinking, get the ring, get married, have children. No. We don't need a man. And I know most men, when they hear a woman say it, and I'll say it again, I don't need a man. Women don't need a man, but men need women. And that's but the thing of it is we're nurturing, we're peacemakers. If the world were run by women, we would have a much different landscape. Everyone knows that. Do you know that DeSantis talks to his wife on it? Do you know Ronald Reagan didn't make a decision unless Nancy gave her? Men do what women say. Because women know what we're doing all the way around. Men are helpless. And they need us, but we need them too. I loved how Jane Fonda speaks about men. She's wonderful.
All right, we're gonna give it to Jen. I appreciate you, Mary Jane. Go ahead, Jen. What are your thoughts about this?
Right, consistent with the case of Monica Rising before you.
Jen. Okay. Jen, where's your audio at?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
What are your thoughts about it? Go ahead.
I have very mixed thoughts on it, and I'm probably going to be very unpopular. But Mary Jane, I agree with a lot that you say. However, I think it's very hypocritical to say that women don't need men, women don't need men, but men need women. With stating that, you're saying that women are held at a higher standard or status. No. We each have our weaknesses and our strengths, and regardless of male or female genitalia, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And going back to men are brainwashed and society does this to them, and they need to be more emotionally regulated. I am sorry. I'm proof that our system, our legal system, actually does the opposite. They try to manipulate the girls into believing that they are this being of disgustingness, and that the boys are different. Therefore, the treatment is different. And I think it's damaging to have this very black and white thinking where our political system is going to fix things, or comparing ourselves to other countries is going to fix things. When we know right from wrong, we ourselves can make the difference, starting in our own households, then in our communities, which then grows from our communities outwards. I think as Americans, because all of this happened to me back in the 80s, so these issues have been happening well before cameras were in the courtroom. We're just now having to eat the damage we have been allowing to be perpetuated in our legal system and in our communities. So I think that we all have very positive outlooks in our own life paths where we can take our own strengths and weaknesses and come together and say, you know what, the change starts with us. Therefore, we are going to change, because when we change, our system changes. We cannot rely on just shouting at the rooftops, oh, change needs to happen, and expect it to happen. We can be outraged all we want. It's just outrage. It's just words. They're pointless. They just take up time and space. It's the action and getting out there in the community and looking at your family members and saying, yes, you have a different opinion than I do. I validate you for having a different opinion, but let's be respectful and say, let's have our differences, but let's come together on what we agree upon to make the change that we all need to be ruled by fear and allow us to see through the fear and go, you know what? Together we can get through anything because we combined all have strengths. Our weaknesses are covered up by the strengths that we all possess.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. I am Ken Ross. We have time. I'm not going anywhere. I think that if we teach our boys just like we teach our girls, don't get me wrong, different people have different conversations on gender roles. But what I would like to see is if the boys had the same skills to be able to assist the girls, the men being able to assist the women in the duties of child rearing, raising, child development, home maintenance, home management, sewing, textiles and clothing management, budgeting and economics. And then when you got two able and capable people that decide, okay, one's going to go to work, one's going to stay home. If something happens, there's the ability to be able to switch, and you're an actual partnership instead of, well, he lost his job, but I can't do what she can do. So now the burden falls heavily on her, which then makes her say, I don't need him because I'm doing everything already. So he has no value. And that's what Mary's saying. I get both sides of it. It's not that she's saying outright, we don't need. It's if I got with you for a different reason, which also is a trauma bonding thing, right? If I got with you because of this, now that we have responsibilities, I forgot to assess if you had those responsibilities. And so now something's got to be done. It's only 24 hours in a day. We got to do something. And so if we spend more time actually teaching the boys like we do the girls, actually healing from our trauma to actually teach them what we may not have had, if we're willing to recognize what we did not have and to do the work, we would have less Robert Crimos. We would have less Nicholas Cruz. We would have less Eric Harris's and Dylan Klebo's and these other people who commit these mass shootings, even the one in St. Louis that just happened.
Yeah.
You know, mom did all she could. I don't know if I agree with that, being a survivor of child abuse and an advocate for children. You know, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Taking them to get mental health services is not all you can do. And the only thing, there are some children and some adults who have literally turned their life around when they got that apology followed by remember that time you were in 5th grade? Remember that time where, you know, you're trying to tell me that your teacher was wrong and I didn't want to believe you and I spanked you and I did this and I did that. Well, I later learned through classes, through experience, through this, through that, I later learned that I was wrong. Right. I later learned that I was wrong and I owe you the biggest apology, because that fake apology is like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. When instead, you got the greatest chance of fixing that bullet wound if you recognize where you were wrong, tell them where you were wrong, and then follow that with an apology. That could be all the therapy that they needed.
Right. The opposite can also be said when it comes to trauma healing. For my case, getting an email from my biological mother stating that she wished I had never been born was the moment that I realized that the toxic belief that finding my biologic family was going to heal because I could get all the answers that I needed was the slap in the face that I needed, that my answers weren't there. My healing was not there, and that I needed to look within myself and not in others to get the healing that I needed.
Would it be too much trouble if I asked you questions regarding that? You're free to say no.
No, I'm completely transparent. Ask away.
Okay, so I received such a thing too. It came in the form of me reaching out to my mom and getting blocked on Facebook. Like, oh, that sucks. I had a long cry. It came out. And after then, mom was dead to me. But then when mom passed later on, you know, before mom passed, she put something on her Facebook that I would later find posthumously after her death, that it finally, sometimes parents know the damage that they've done, but they don't have the guts to just come out right and say it. So they'll say it in other ways and just hope that you get it after their passing or them walking away. But the question is this: we often react to the pain that we receive in such an email like what you did, like what you got, when you said you got it from your mom, that your mom said, I wish you were never born. And oftentimes we become so shocked by that, rightfully so, that we have not learned yet to move past that and say, Mom, I acknowledge, not that I respect, because that hurts to hear, but I acknowledge your opinion. If it would be too much trouble, can you tell me why you wish I wasn't born? Without, why you wish I wasn't born? Because if your mom's got trauma, then she's not going to want to tell you. It's like trauma fighting trauma.
Oh, no, I know.
But there
I get where you're coming from.
I'll say this last minute. You got the floor. But there are times where our parents are fighting their trauma.
Yes.
And they don't. It's like there are a lot of parents. There are parents who have had us for their own self-esteem, have had us for their own ego, have had us for some other selfish reason, and they don't want to tell us. And so I think that you sometimes see it when the parents treat the grandchildren better than they treated you. And then they're like, well, I got with the grandchildren, it's time for me to try over again, because maybe I can't
my adoptive
daughter or my son, but I'm going to make it right with the grandchildren, and there's my healing. So
that's my adoptive parents with my stepgirls. Yep.
See, so, and it's like, I knew I messed up with you.
But I am a first time condom birth control baby.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
They don't always work, guys.
Yeah. I'm the little egg that could.
Same here.
That says a lot about you.
God,
yeah. She didn't find out she was pregnant with me until she was 2.5 months pregnant. Grandmother, Roman Catholic.
Hey, Mo.
And pretty much told her that if she decided to abort me, that she would be disowned. Then she was forced into marrying my biological father, who was a meth distributor and manufacturer of the Bay Area. And so upon forcing to get married and having a baby, she turned to the drugs that he was making and decided the remaining of her pregnancy that she was going to try to self-abort me.
See, that's
so her words that she wished I had never been born was actually one of her manic episodes of an honesty spell. The whole email was packed full of a lot of information and a lot of statements from her that in her manic episode were actually true. So the email was, yes, emotionally damaging, but in the same moment, it also was very, I guess, freeing, because the trauma that I experienced while in her custody, I remember, because I was in her custody until I was almost 9 years old. The state of California removed myself and my 2 siblings from her care over 112 times.
Whoa.
They had to set up a victim witness fund for myself and my 2 siblings because of the Lots of diligence they did. So then they pawned me off when I was 9 years old on a sorry couple that had been denied adoption 5 times but had money. So they agreed to adopt an older girl in the system that nobody else wanted, and their marriage was on the rocks. He wanted kids. She didn't. It was her second marriage, and if she got divorced, her parents would have disowned her. So I was adopted. I was the band-aid to the marriage.
Wow.
Wow.
So talk about childhood trauma. Oh, I
Yeah.
got it. I got it threefold. Biologic parents, foster care, then adoption. The
But you're
system
healing.
is broken. I'm here to tell you the system is broken, and it's
Yes,
not
it is.
broken because of the politicians. It's broken because we as voters are too afraid of the bigger picture. We're not looking at our community. We're not looking at what we can do in our homes. We're not looking. We have the power. The politicians work for us.
Yes.
If we don't like what they're doing, don't get on the line and start complaining and downplaying one party, because guess what? It's both parties. It's everybody. It doesn't matter what you subscribe to. It doesn't matter what ideologies you follow. When it comes down to it, if you are an American, a United States of American citizen, because South Americans are Americans, North Americans are Americans. If you are a United States American citizen that can vote, that is your power.
Right.
Close your mouth, get that ballot, take it in. That is your power. I didn't realize that until 2016. Up until 2016, I believed my voice did not have a power. I believed that, one extra vote, it's not going to matter. But when that election happened, that's what caused me to go, you know what? No, this is how the country has gone bad. Oh my goodness, I've been a hypocrite. Everything that has happened to me is because of voters like me. That's when I went out and I registered, and I went out there and I had to deal with all of it. And I had to get the jury summons, and then I had to get a note from my doctor saying, I'm not a good juror candidate. Please don't put her in a jury box. But I got asked a question in the chat when it comes to mental health issues. Are there mental health issues that are so bad that you don't know right from wrong? Yes.
Yes.
It's called fear.
Yes.
When you are in fight or flight mode, you are thinking about survival. It is not regarding right or wrong. It is about intent. His intent was to go into that school. His intent was to kill. That is the intent that is a result of his brain wiring.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
The way we teach our boys.
No,
what we say to our sons.
no. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand. There's mental health issues. There's physical, chemical, environmental. There are so many elements that go into our brains. There are so many different elements that happen throughout our lives. I just had a full hysterectomy. I had everything removed because what had been done to me in utero messed up my body's ability to form correctly. I have massive issues because while my body was trying to form, it couldn't do what it needed to do because it had these foreign objects in it that it couldn't process what it needed to keep and what it needed to get rid of. That's not my fault. But what is my fault is when I allow my anger to get the best of me and I do or say something that I know is wrong and I know I shouldn't be doing.
Can I offer you something?
Absolutely.
In anger management, when I educate people on it, 3 things: stuffing it, escalating it, and managing it.
Mhm.
You have with a lot of trauma, the more trauma you have, the more positive coping mechanisms you
Mhm.
need. What you have are positive coping mechanisms. But
Yes.
a lot of people don't know that they don't know. Some know that they don't know, and some just know that they know, but they refuse
Exactly.
to actually carry out those actions and those tools. And so I just wanted to add that to what you were saying, but keep going.
Yeah. The fear of societal judgment of mental health issues or having an off day. Like, just if everyone has a bad day, but if you get on social media and you go, damn, today was just a bad day. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You are going to get flooded with, oh, that's not bad. Oh, someone else is having a worse day. Oh, get over it. Oh, move on. We lack
Get a new circle.
compassion because we're desensitized to what we should be paying attention to. We are being refocused on issues that really aren't dire to the right here, right now, but it grabs our fear and it grabs our attention to distract from actual change. It distracts from us actually doing what we need to do to make effective change. But that's fear. And that's the human nature. When we're afraid, we're scattered because we're trying to survive. That's all that's on our mind. And unfortunately for me, part of my trauma was I did not look at emotion. I refused to have any involvement with emotion. And that was because I was told by the people around me not to cry in public.
And that's what they tell boys. Not to
And to
cry.
that I say, screw you. Because I don't care what genitalia you have or don't have, because regardless of it, you will have human emotion. And if you keep that inside, it will eat you alive and it will cause you so much damage and destruction that in itself, that's what will end you. Not the political cycle, not a school shooter, not going to the movie theater, not walking down your street after the sun goes down. It's going to be yourself. If we can't be okay shedding a tear in front of a stranger and have that human compassion to give them a hug, what are we doing here?
Yes.
Well, that's what we were talking about, raising sons. The way we raise our daughters. We raise our daughters to be compassionate, to be nurturing, to be caring. Why can't we raise our son? Yeah, but I'm well, a perfect parent there isn't. But number one, to have children for the right reasons. That's where you start. Okay, we talked about people who have them for their own egos, for their own whatever. It helps to have children for the right reasons, and then to teach them right from wrong. But I mean, look at how people teach religion as a fear. I mean, we either come from fear or we come from love. That's it.
Judge Mike.
All realms, and everything is energy. So when you were told, I'm trying to remember things that were said that I wanted to touch on. When you were told that I wish you were never born, the second you hear anything like that, it's cancel. Because you know why? Everything is energy and frequency. Everything. And you are a beautiful person.
That's counterintuitive, though.
But you were meant to be here.
Exactly.
You chose to be here, and you have a place and a purpose, and I hope that you never think of your mother in any way but the poor thing. She did the best she could, but she was mentally ill, and she loved as much as she could, and it wasn't enough, and she made mistakes, but you are a perfect, imperfect human being.
Maybe
I'm
one
glad
of
that
you
you're
guys,
here.
Giving her too much credit. That's giving her way
maybe
too
one of
much
you
credit.
guys can help me out with this.
Because she
Hold on,
got sober.
Again, last point.
She
Christina had a question.
Sure.
Maybe one of y'all can help me with this. I I raised my sons the way Mary is saying that we should,
Mary
as
Jane. I'm
parents.
sorry.
Yeah, Mary Jane.
Thank you.
Raises your son. My sons have been raised to have compassionate for other people.
And do you teach them, like, do you have boys and girls?
Just boys. I only
Or
have
just
boys.
boys? So do you teach, okay, you're their mother, right?
Yes.
First relationship any boy has is with the mother.
Thank you.
How much better, what better example, what better platform to teach your son to respect and revere women? And,
Yes.
and pardon me, I don't mean, I said some things and I'm still healing from some past traumas too, so forgive me. And I reserve the right to walk back anything I say, because sometimes I say things from emotion. If I think about it, it's maybe something I felt at the moment, but I don't feel that deep in my
here's
soul.
the question. I want your guys' help. Here's the question.
Sure, go ahead.
I've raised my sons to be good people, just good people, and caring people, to have compassion for others no matter what. And my son is struggling now because when he stepped out into the world, when he started doing things outside, he started feeling what a lot of us have felt, which was being judged, hate crime and stuff like that. He started experiencing that. So, he has anxiety now, and he tells me, Mom, I thought everybody's parents were teaching them to have the same compassion as you taught us. But not everybody's raising their kids to be the same, obviously, because I've been targeted, I've been bullied, things have happened to me, and I'm a nice person, and I'm a
How old is he?
person.
How old?
He's 19.
And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to societal pressures and what's happening, because this goes back to when I was a kid. The things that have been going on have progressed so much. We're only becoming aware about it now because of social media and cameras.
Yes.
My youngest brother is in jail, and it's exactly where he should be. And there's a chance that he might actually get off, and he might actually be able to go free. And it's one of those situations that I am fighting tooth and nail to try to keep him in jail, because that's where he belongs, and that's where he should have been as a teenager, when he was running Suburbans into telephone poles and setting backyards on fire and slashing couches with knives and
Does he
beating
need to be in jail, or does he need mental health?
No, he needs jail. And that's the thing, is that
Okay,
there
you
is
know what I want to
something.
touch on? If he had an inner circle, if we
Yes.
all have an inner circle, it starts
Mary
with
Jane.
Hold
that
on.
19-year-old. I just want to say one thing.
Sure, go ahead,
That 19-year-old that she was talking, that her son, I'm sorry, tell me your name once more. Excuse me. Christina. Oh my gosh. And your son's name?
Matthew.
Okay, Matthew. Matthew needs to find his people. There are other women who have taught their boys just like you. And Matthew needs to stay strong in his what you've taught him. He needs to understand that everyone is different, but he needs to follow his truth, and he needs to find his purpose, and he needs to stay in the light, and he needs to keep his vibe high.
Exactly. And not allow other people to silence him, and not allow his voice to get out by all the negativity.
And the most important, this is what you all need to teach your children. The most important relationship you can have is the one you have with yourself.
Yes!
The one you have with yourself.
That's why I shut up.
Because
And
everyone's
social
going to be
media,
saying
yes.
things about you. It's what you tell yourself. Do you get up in the morning, and do you get up and rise in gratefulness, even if you have clean water, even if the taste of your berries that you eat, the cereal that you eat, even if you're lucky enough and blessed enough to have a roof over your head and no fear that someone's going to take it from anything, do you live in gratefulness? That's what we need. So to create that feeling, you know why people get into relationships, and they search for other people, is because they have a void within themselves.
Yes.
If we were to fix what we need to heal, within us, heal our child self, because things happen. You know, you go to a therapist. What does she say? What are your first memories from 0 to 2?
Yes.
You tell them. What's your next memories from 2 to 4? From 4 to 7? From 7 to 9? Things happen. And if we don't put them into perspective and then go on, we don't fix the traumas, then we cover them up, and life is happening so fast, we don't have the time. So yes, it helps if we have a parent or a mentor or somebody that's decent, that's good, that's not going to exploit us, that's not going to take advantage of us. We all don't have that. But that's when, Christina, I think it was you were speaking about a community. Yes, it starts with us, our families, and then our community. Do you know Hillary Clinton's book, It Takes a Village? That philosophy is so important because it takes a village of people to watch your children. You can't be everywhere, but if a child knew that when he went down to the corner drugstore, if he stole that candy bar, Mr. Simpson was going to get, you know what I mean? So it's a small little community. It starts with a block or it starts with a street, but to teach our boys to be every bit as respectful and to revere women and to put them on a pedestal the way women can put men on a pedestal. We're all human beings, but it's the way men perceive women, and that's what changes them. That's what, why are mostly men incarcerated? Why are mostly Black men incarcerated? You can see the certain inequities that were built into the system to keep people down. We have to rise up. And believe me, I'm white. I'm a minority. I'm a minority in my own country. I knew it was coming and I welcomed it. I love my immigrants. I live in. Okay.
Let me add to this.
Mike, I have a quick injection here. The United States of America was founded by immigrants. We all are immigrants.
Look at what we did to the Indians,
except
the indigenous.
Exactly. They can say that this is their homeland, that this is their country. We are all immigrants.
Yes.
And we all need to remember that.
Kenya, stay here. You're absolutely correct. You know what? Oh, I'm glad this is going where it's going because it needed to. Look, that's why I wrote, and Kenya, stick around because I want to capitalize on your comment and talk about that. That was one of the main influences that got me to write my children's book series, What I Tell Myself First. And you touched on it, Mary Jane, because teaching things from a real world perspective. And Christina, I would tell you this. There are, you know who helps us stay in fantasy land? Parents at times. When the parents don't heal from their trauma and they lie to us. And not, sometimes they could be lies maliciously or
they're unintentional.
Unintentional, yes. And when you sit there and say certain things like, you know, friend versus enemy, when life is not that black and white, there are associates, there are so many different classifications of things. It's like the trauma that you haven't healed from and mastered, you can't teach us the real world because you're living in the lie. And if you're living in the lie, you're passing the lie to us. And then when we go out into the real world and life tests our gangster, we can't bang, for the lack of terms. When those people, when we go to school and think because in daycare, let's share and share alike, and then you go to bigger school, well, they not sharing at all, you know, and you don't understand that I like me. Not everyone will like me. That's okay. I like me. My body is what it is. Failure is a part of success. If you learn from the failure, what did I learn? So I want to know.
And you only learn when you're down.
Absolutely.
You only learn when you're down.
And then the thing is, failure is a part of success if you learn from it. Change can be good. Change can be bad. Change can be happy. Change can be sad.
Did Christina ever ask her question?
Sure, go ahead.
No, was Christina
Yes,
ever
she
able to
asked
ask
about
her
Matthew,
question?
and I was trying to.
She asked the question. I understood the question she was asking. She was talking about, my son is feeling down, and what
He's
if anything
struggling.
can I do? Because in essence, life is testing her son's gangster.
Yes.
And the thing is,
Is he being bullied? Is he being bullied for having that mentality?
But the thing, I can tell he's probably being, and I'll give her the room to answer, but I can tell he's probably being bullied for having that mentality because there's the lack of the reality that's being pushed out there. And this isn't any disparaging remarks towards Christina or any mother that is doing it. Kenya from Cali said something that I agree in part and I disagree in part. It said compassion is one thing, but boys should not be disciplined by their moms. That's a father's role. I agree in part and I disagree in part. I agree in part because, yes, you need to see that male, whatever the case may be, we can go there. But I want you to understand something. Mary Jane hit it on the head. A mother, you all as women are our first teachers. You're our first love. We get our nutrients from you. We get a lot of stuff from you. And so whether or not a woman can raise a boy to be a man, that's a whole discussion. That's a whole debate. But by God, you all are great teachers if you understand a few things. One, it's hard for you to teach us when you haven't mastered your own trauma. Two, you would end up wasting time and trying to teach us stuff when you don't understand how we learn and the environments that we learn best in. And then if you don't plan your lessons accordingly so as not to waste time, you find yourself teaching lessons ahead of the previous lesson you should have taught. If you're sitting here dealing with the first grade child and you're trying to teach physics, it's not going to compute. We haven't learned the basics yet. And so you have to be humble enough to say, what kind of parent am I? Take the word parent out. Let's put that in a box for a minute. What kind of teacher am I?
Right. What values
role model?
What values do I want to impart? How do I want my child to go through life? In the light?
Absolutely.
Or, do you know?
Christina, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
As a mother to that 19-year-old son who's struggling, what are you struggling with when it comes to your son?
Just seeing his pain. I go to therapy. My son was going to therapy for a while, but because I have traumas from, my father's murder, my mother not being in my life, and just trauma after trauma. So I try to be very honest with my son about the things that I've gone through, the things that his grandmother has gone through. And I just let him know that it's okay to need extra help, or it's okay that he doesn't come to me because he feels like, I don't want to stress you, Mom. I don't want to add to whatever it is you're going through. So, and I tell him it's okay. It doesn't have to be me. But I want to just say he was being bullied just for being a good person. Just for being, because we were from LA. He was born in LA. I'm from Los Angeles, California. And they have this belief that all LA people are like, we're all thugs and we're all like,
I'm from the Bay.
Yeah. And the boys just, they're down to fight. And my son isn't that way. He's opposite. He doesn't like to fight. And I've always taught them, like, be nice, be compassionate, be kind. You don't have to fight everything. You don't, you have to just learn how to defend yourself always, but it doesn't always have to be a fight. And so
I take it you're over 35.
46.
Okay. So remember back when we were going through school, we didn't have social media, we didn't have cell phones. We were passing notes, right? Take it back to then. Take your trauma out of it. Put yourself in your son's shoes, but back in your day. What would have been the advice you would have given your son?
Oh, I handled things differently back then.
Right. But it's social media. It's social media and the technology that is the corruption here. So if you remove that,
comparison is the biggest thief of joy.
Right. So
you can't care. And when you look at social media, it's all fake.
Exactly.
See, I was raised differently. I was
Yep.
raised, my mom was a drug addict most of my
Mhm.
growing up. I was in the system as well. That's why earlier I said I can I understand both sides when it has to do with the Parkland shooter because I was also in the system.
Yep.
And I was raised differently. I handled things differently. I was like, hey, let's go, but I didn't raise my
Yes, I
sons to
do
be
know.
the same way. I didn't want my sons to have to deal with things the way I did because life for me was different than the way we have made life for my children. But the struggle of him saying, well, I'm good. I've done everything that you said, Mom, that I should be a kind person. I've done that. But people um, don't always accept that. And I don't
They don't
understand
validate
why.
that.
Tell him not to look for that acceptance,
Yeah.
not to
He
expect
doesn't need
that.
he does not need outside validation.
Right.
You need
Yes.
to remind him of
Right.
that because that's what
That
social media has done to our younger generation. They're looking for validation online and from their peers.
Yes. Yes.
you
That's what
you
we
validate
grew
him.
up with.
You make him feel like he's the most wonderful man in the world.
Tell him
That
to
Oh,
take a
yes.
week off of social media.
Yes,
Have him
that's what
take
I
a
do
break
tell
from
him. I
social
tell
media.
him that he's a beautiful young man and that his heart is like no other 19-year-old that I've known. He goes into a Walmart or store, whatever. He tells everybody, "Good morning, hello, how are you, sir?" And sometimes they respond to him, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes I'll say the wrong thing. I say, you know what? Don't say hi to him. He's ungrateful. And my son will remind me. He will remind me of what I taught him. He reminds me, Mom, it's okay. It's okay as long as I said hi to him.
Yes.
I acknowledged
Let
him.
Let me
yes.
interject. Let me
Yes.
interject this.
Degenerate
Give
just
the
made a
power.
comment.
Put the power
Degenerate
back.
doesn't apply
Hold
to
on,
you.
y'all. Hold on. I want to say Eddie's or courts. Okay, here we go. Mary, Jen, and I got to interject this point. Go.
Okay. Give the power to where it's best spent with our children.
Yep.
Empower your child. Let him, everyone, I mean, to be a good parent, that's what you must do. And by the way, I'm going to have to go in a couple minutes, but I want to buy one of your books.
Okay.
I want to get everyone's number. I don't know how to do this. Like I said, this is crazy how it came up. And I had no idea I was going to do this.
Sure.
Me
so
either.
I want to get everybody's handle or whatever. I'm older than you guys, so I'm just getting into the social, but my daughter's an influencer here in LA, and I'm learning real quick. So
Look at Ken Ross got a whole law office. Mary Jane, what I can do is I can give you my
and
email.
thank you, by the way, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Your
ma'am.
energy, I felt all of you individually and collectively, and this has been life-changing. I mean, this being in
Yes,
a
I
forum
agree.
like this with
Kenya, don't stop.
feeling different things, and I actually will carry all of you with me forever. Because
Mary Jane, please message me.
I will. Can I have? How do I?
What I can do
I'm
is
sorry, my ignorance.
that's okay. No, that's okay. What I can do is I can give you either my cell phone number. I don't mind. Everybody's got it already. Don't matter. And then you can text me your email address, and then I can share it, and we can all do that. So that way we all got it. Because Mary Jane,
can I give you? Listen, this is probably well. No, I can't be hurt by this. I want to give you my phone number.
Sure.
Everyone, 310-922-7607. And
I got it in case y'all didn't get it.
leave me your my name is Mary Jane Burke. It's Mary Jane Burke 1 at Gmail. And I'm resigning from American Airlines. Eastern Airlines before that, American Airlines.
Sure.
So I'm really coming out with a new chapter, and I'm in real estate, and I'm an actress, and my social media platform will be absolutely fantastic. And I want to carry you all with me because you were the first people that I've even expressed any of my views, and I really learned a lot from all of you, and I thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
And I wish you all a beautiful day. And listen, if you all will feel this sometime today, wherever you are, you feel that feeling of empowerment, that kindness, that love, it's from me. I'm sending you all energy. And believe me, you will feel this much more than these words can ever convey to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Namaste.
I will say this, that unreasonable expectations fuel unreasonable emotions. Unreasonable emotions fuels irrational behavior. And when Christina, when your son is going about his day, remember that's something that he should recite, that I can't expect, when you begin to expect certain people to do things and they let you down, if you expect them to do this thing and they let you down and then you feel a certain way, it could lead to irrational behavior. Everyone is not going to be your friend. Everyone is not going to be friendly. But just like you said, your son said, it does not matter as long as I said hi. He's got to know his why. So that way, he doesn't waste time and energy giving energy to something that has no life. Or could be hurting too. And that's the reality. Like, this was meant to happen. This was supposed to be, look, hey.
Yes.
Jen, you were saying something, and I hope I didn't cut you off. I'm gonna rest, and you said, and then we're gonna let attorney, he's not an attorney, but he looked like he plays one on TV, Ken Ross. All right, go ahead, Jen. And then Hines, if you got anything to add, jump in this pool. Just
absolutely.
Okay, let Jen, Hines, and then Ken. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I was just going back to what Christina was saying, and I got called a boomer, which, by the way, I'm not. But I mean, I've been called an old soul since I was 3 years old, so call me whatever you want. But going back to her son and the concerns that she's having, it sounds like she and her son are having the same concerns of insecurity, of the other one being insecure. And Christina, with you being open with your son, sitting him down and going over how social media has affected the world, but also your life, and how it's helped but also harmed, could be helpful to him to understand that what he's going through is normal, it's natural, and to look inward for that validation and not outward to his friends and his peers. Because he knows right from wrong. You've taught him right from wrong.
Yes, he does.
At the end of the night, that's all that matters. He's putting his head down on that pillow. He is his own judge and juror. And so he has to look inside himself and validate, did he do the best he could that day? Or did he allow others to dictate his choices?
Yes.
That was the biggest thing for my niece. I had to get emergency custody over her when she was 17. And it was a really bad situation where she was, I want to be an adult. I want to be on my own. I want to be emancipated, which, I told her, if that's what you want, fine, but you don't know how to budget. You don't know how to live on your own and be on your own. She had that opinion. She knew everything.
Yeah.
Exposing her to the social media aspect of things and removing that from her. And it was actually court ordered, so it worked out for me where I could. Her being away from social media allowed her to realize that she wasn't making her own choices. She was making her choices based off of what her friends were posting and what everything was saying online, not what she knew to be true, not what she knew her friends were doing behind the scenes. And once she realized that and realized she really didn't know what she didn't know, that's when she had her biggest growth, and when her eyes really opened to the information and she was more willing to be okay with being uncomfortable. And I think that's kind of where we're at as a country, is we're not okay with being uncomfortable. So we want the quickest fix to make us not so uncomfortable. Because
Yeah.
who likes to be uncomfortable?
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true. Ken, what's up, doctor?
Hey, Judge Mike, definitely happy that you have this stream. I'm actually a business consultant. I'm not a lawyer, right? And I do produce content in my studio here. So I've been messing with my camera. So I'm sorry to the viewers if you didn't like all the changes, but I wanted to make sure it was right. So thank you once again. I mean, I live in Miami. I live in Florida. This case has been something that has been always in the front here for a while. But I also have 2 foster kids that I adopted out of foster care.
Oh,
And
great.
I fostered 30 kids over 3 years.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
my heart really goes out to this case. My heart really feels for what this case was about from the beginning in a lot of ways. And I really do appreciate the perspectives shown in this stream here. I can't tell you that that I could say anything else other than that. So it really comes down to a matter of perspective, and that's what we're talking about here. What is the perspective, and what do you really want out of society? If you want a loving society, if you want things that make sense, because we talk about, what makes sense to that perspective, then you really need to push for those things.
That's right.
And I don't see a society that does that,
No.
especially when it comes to people in the child welfare
I agree.
system. I spent 3 years of my life feeling like I was living hell because everybody is out to make a quick dollar on these kids.
Yes.
And we were trying to do the right things. Talk to me about perspective later. But ultimately, in the end, I feel like I've made a difference. And that's what I think really makes this important for us to talk about, right?
Yes.
We
Can
have
I ask
a
a question about
moral
being an adopted
responsibility.
or a foster
Go
parent?
ahead. What's that, Jen?
Since Nick was also in the system, and I was too, there were a lot of comments in the chat during the victim statements regarding foster parents. Why didn't they do more? The foster parent should be prosecuted.
Wow.
And I, of
Okay.
course, responded with, that's not going to fix it. That's just going to cause more issues.
Absolutely.
As a foster parent and a adoptive parent of a foster child, as your perspective, fighting in your shoes, how's the system? Is it working great? How's the system?
So let me talk a little bit to that, Jen. Yeah, that's a really good question. Fighting the system is hard
Don't mess up
because what's that? Sorry.
Don't mess up your check. I'm just playing. Keep going.
No, fighting the system is hard, and I don't want this to get too political. I really don't. But being this shade, you fight a lot of systems. So I understand what this is really about, and I can see it. And I can tell you, I fought very hard for every one of the 30 kids that I had over 3 years, and all of them are better off than they started, but they all still have a very long way to go, including the 2 that I adopted. Right?
Would you say that removing the word foster out of foster parent, it's the same situation? If you were the biological parent, you would suffer the same struggles, if not more, as being a foster parent?
That's another good question, Jen. I think it's a little more dynamic than that. I guess, would I want to be a foster parent or a regular parent? Is kind of how I'm going to look at this question. And I would say a parent in the child welfare system who's being pushed into a system that's either going to try to that has control of their kids, right? That is a much tougher place than a foster parent. There's a lot more scrutiny there that I don't even understand and wouldn't want to understand. I know I've talked to a lot of biological parents of kids that I was taking care of, and their stories are unbelievable. And you won't understand why the system is doing what they're doing to them. And I just sit back and I say, look, I'm going to do the best I can right now in this moment. And I'm going to pray for you because it's really sad that that's what we're doing. I mean, I've heard stories of, for instance, I will make this very short. I've heard stories of people who are multimillionaires who've had their kids taken away from them for 21 days because of the child welfare system. Multimillionaires. Why is that? I don't know. Well, actually, I do know, but
I'll comment on that, because if you look at the rubric of success in certain communities, and I will speak to what I have observed out of the Black community, the rubric of success is you finish school in some way, shape, form, or fashion. If that occurred, great. If not, well, depends on what you're doing professionally. We'll waive that. Then you're going to do your thing professionally, and then you've made all this money, and then with money and your public face that the public sees, they assume that because you have the look of success, that you have the overall picture of everything that is success, both personal and professional, when in fact the public face that you see is the projection of professional success, while after 5 p.m. when the camera is off and when the lights are off, there's that private personal resume that has a huge void. And here we go, Christina. I'm going to beeline straight back to what you were talking about, some of the questions and trying to get some solutions and answers. I think that when we look at falling in love or falling in value, I think value must take center place. I think when we look at certain things like, how good is your son at cooking? This is rhetorical. If you choose to answer, cool, but I'm going down a list here. Does your son and even yourself know the ages and stages of child development, right? There are classes, both free and paid, that cover that. Health and hygiene, home management and design, home maintenance skills, home security, education and community awareness, sewing, textiles and clothing management, budgeting and economics, fire safety. Does your son have a CPR first aid card? Does he have an AED? What I'm saying is that through the trauma that you have gone through and what your son has gone through or may go through in the future, life hasn't tested his gangster yet. So where you can fill in, and one thing that Kanye West or Ye is missing, because we see Ye, the personification of success and musical and beats, and that's what the world knows of him. But when life tested his gangster and he got married to Kim Kardashian and he didn't have those skills, he didn't have a dot to connect, and Dr. Donda West is no longer here to show him. And that's life tested our gangster. And we like, who do I run to? Who's going to help me? Is there any help for the widow's son? And so when you look at that, with so many things that need to be taught, who got time to worry about everybody else?
Yeah.
So that's where we got to start. Not just with you, not in our communities. We got to look at these checklists, and if you need, I got some, right? We got to look at these checklists. What doesn't my son know that we can go to a class and learn together? Because I need to increase the value package personally of my son.
Yes.
Who my son becomes professionally, that's just the money-making aspect. But after 5 o'clock p.m. to 8:59 a.m., some of the most ratchetest stuff that we will ever do, you will never know. But it's the stuff that we do to cope with the personal trauma because of the voids of this knowledge, skill, and ability that we don't have, that make us equitable partners in the home and have eyes and ears for someone else's trauma so that we can avoid this trauma bonding and actually look for more value in someone else, because family matters.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And
I was going to say, can you speak to a little bit of what that really means then for people who are understanding of what you're saying, right? There's a responsibility now to deal with that trauma, right? And how do you go about doing that?
And Judge Mike, I'm by what you just said, I know that you're feeling me, you hear me, and you know where I'm coming from. And that's exactly what I need and I want for my son. All of the skills that will build up his value as this person, and I always tell them you have to value yourself. You have to value yourself because I don't know what that feels like because I wasn't. I was missing all of those things growing up. So, but and as I got older, I started loving myself and learning how to love myself and accept myself as who I am and what I'm about. And so I tell my son, when you value yourself and you carry yourself with respect and love and for yourself, you are going to be able to be successful in everything and anything without looking for what's the word?
Validation from
Outside
someone.
validation.
Yes, from anybody else.
Mhm.
So you felt me and I felt what you just said. So if there's a book or something that you offer for me to make sure I go down that checklist with my son,
Yes.
let me know what it is so that I can make sure that I support you in that and I also can be able to help myself.
Yeah, because the thing is that it's not even just the value, because sometimes we can have misplaced value. Sometimes, and I want to get to your answer or your question, Ken, so we can answer that. But sometimes we can have misplaced value. How many times have you ever watched Shark Tank and a person comes in with an over-exaggerated evaluation of what their product or business is worth, and the market is like, yeah, that's not that you. There's actually a saturation. There's too much of that, and you think that you're gonna have the best one. Well, I'm out. I can't do anything with that. It's too much of that. And so if we look at the knowledge, skills, and abilities that your son has, the more you spend time with him trying to add value and even taking classes together, he will learn about you. You will learn about him. You will learn about what kind of learner your son is and the environments that they learn best, so you can begin to craft lessons at home, so that way it's more bonding. If we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, which I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, love and belonging. When you teach someone and you impart within them a skill, you show them that you have the energy to take on the strategic failure, because they're not going to do everything right. But if they understand that even behind your slight disappointment, if they don't do something right, they know there's a lesson behind that and not a beating, they will be more willing to come to you with everything, both good and bad, ugly, hurtful, all that stuff. They will come to you with that because they know you are their teacher and not their prison warden, razor teller mom.
Yes. Yes.
And so, yes, I'll say the number again, 773-644-5000. I'll repeat it again. Just text me, and then I'll shoot that information to you, 773-644-5000. Easy, and make sure you get that, because I want to make sure that I help people have tools to be able to do the work. It's not enough to just say, I want to do it. We all want to do better things, but we got to have the tools to help us go down that path. And I promise you, when you take the time to add to your son's personal resume, because you can have a professional resume as potentially criminal. He's got a long CV of cases and things that he's done. Ask Ken Ross, Jen, myself. My CV is 8 pages? I got it. But personally, that's a different resume. And that's where your report card comes in, as take the mother, father title out of it, as a teacher.
Yes.
Foundational things.
Yes. Last point, and I'll land and I'll open it up. I appreciate all of you all. Think about a teacher. A teacher spends 45 minutes with their kids. But in those 225 minutes in the whole week, look at how much of an impact they have on our children. And we say we don't have time. No, we do have time. We just don't plan our lessons. And you have to know the student and the material and how they learn to be able to plan the best lesson in the most minimal time that you have, because parents think they have forever to teach. Teachers know they don't have forever. So I got to make it last forever. And we're going to make this lesson impactful.
There's no instant gratification.
I'm telling you. Oh my God, it's open. You all go. Oh, Ken Ross walked away and potentially criminal did too.
No, I didn't walk away.
Okay.
I'll turn the cam back on. I'm actually trying to fix my camera because I have a much better look, and now potentially criminal came in and he came in with his nice studio look. I don't have it yet, so I've been working on it. But no worries. I've been hearing what you're saying. You're laying it down, Judge. I don't know what to say. As somebody who has come up from not dire straits, I guess. I was raised with two different parents, or with divorced parents for a while, and they got remarried. And I've made something of myself, but it was a personal responsibility, right? You have to take your own responsibility, and you have to teach kids to take that responsibility, so that when they get older, or even when they get to the shooter's age here, they can understand and be better equipped to deal with those things, and not let emotion and all these other things overwhelm them and overtake them. I would say that's a lifelong journey. That's something you will never escape, is how to deal with some of these traumas, how to deal with anything that comes your way. And with that, if you give me just a second, I'd love to explain to you why I feel that, right? The reason I feel that way is that I am actually a person who has had to persevere through a lot. I've lost a dozen people in 7 years, including a wife and 2 kids, several parents, my grandparents, several uncles and cousins. And if you don't think there are traumas there, if you don't think that that's something that is hard to deal with, even as an adult, I guess I would say it's even harder as an adult than it is as a kid. What would that do to somebody? And I could sit here and I could tell you, I have a smile on my face. I have my own studio. I do some work here out of my studio, and I have my own channel. But that's because I wanted to persevere. I wanted to do something with that story. I didn't want to just sit around and be upset and think about that all the time. That's a lot of what we need to deal with as a society. That's what we need to understand and encounter every day of our lives. And so I ask myself that all the time, right? How many grocery store clerks do you talk to, right, that are ringing up your groceries, versus how many times do you get mad at them because they're going too slow? These are things that you should really think about. As a society, what do you want to put in? Because if you're not willing to put it in, don't expect it to come out. That's the bottom line. Having lost so many people in my life, I have nothing else to lose but to pour into society what I want to see, because I lost all of it. I'm done, man. That's good.
And that's what I wanted to say earlier when somebody was mentioning something as well, is that when I have discussions with my son about the Parkland shooter, the oldest son, he's very he's very firm on, oh no, they should have gave him the death penalty. That's what he believes, and that's his opinion. And he stated why he felt that way. And I said, look, son, I don't always share everything that I went through when I was in foster care, and I was in a group home, and I went from foster home to a foster home till I finally landed in a group home. And I said, I had issues too. I was seeing therapists too. I would go crazy too. There was times I had these feelings, and I was angry at the whole world. And I was fighting other girls that were also broken and coming from broken homes. We all wanted to hurt each other because we didn't know what else to do. I said, does that mean dispose of me because I'm broken, because I'm dealing with stuff the best way that I can? I said, I just want you to see the other side. If you can possibly just have compassion and know that some of us can't help ourselves. Some of us don't have the ability to always choose right from wrong. I think God was able to do that. I was able to fight through those urges of, I want to hurt somebody because I'm feeling this pain right now. And I want to take it out on anybody because the people that I do want to hurt, they're not available. I had to fight those urges, and it takes a lot, and it takes for others to help me, come in and help me and talk to me when I needed it back then when I was younger. And so I just wanted to say that, not a lot of those victims' families or parents, the way they were talking, clearly they don't understand. Clearly they don't understand, and I feel for them because they don't get it. And maybe it's the anger and the pain that's blocking them from being able to understand right now. But I pray that when they look back years later, that they realize that what they were saying is equal to the hatred that that they claim that this young man had or has.
And though I understand it, it doesn't dismiss the fact that they are spewing that same hate. And if he was not in, my thing is this, if he was not in custody, would they say those same things to his face?
Of course not.
Of course, because if he was not in custody, would they call him all those things if he was able to carry out? That's akin to bullying. And the thing is, I get the reason why they're saying it, and in a court of law, they're allowed to express their pain, but that ain't helping.
Well, also consider this. If the law stated if you did this heinous crime, you automatically get the death penalty. You don't have an option of a jury trial to have life in prison. It's automatic death. Imagine what they would say then, what their mentality would be during those victim witness statements. Would they be pleading to allow him to have life in prison? Would they have a different perspective on the situation if the information was different, or if this information was presented 40 years ago?
I'll give you one even better. If we were living in a country where for theft you got your hand chopped off.
Yeah.
What would the plea be then?
Yeah, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And so, you know how there's a saying, sometimes you're so smart, you're not dumb. Sometimes you're so privileged, you don't understand. And that's okay. No one owes you understanding. I get it. But here's this. Ken, you were saying something, and I land, and I gotta let Judge Sean. I know. He said, don't do that, Mike. The thing is, we use words like responsibility and accountability. But Christina, I honor you for sharing your trauma and being vulnerable enough to share that. Ken, your camera's better now. Because what if you were to execute what you felt and no one had any compassion for you, and they said, well, you're responsible, you're to be held accountable. And in the study of criminology, that is a thing called rational choice theory. You had option A, option B, you had selections under those options. You chose this option, ergo, you are responsible. You had the intent, you had all this stuff, and that's how criminal cases are made. But then we don't look at the motivations as to the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces
Exactly.
that or what gas you up to make that choice.
Exactly.
And not only just that, people use the word accountability, last point, quickly. People use the word accountability, but they don't look at the root word of accountability, which is to count. So do you have the skill to count? Therefore, you can be held accountable. If you're looking at responsibility, the root word to responsibility is to respond with ability. If we have not given them the skills to count, if we have not given them the skills and tested their ability, how can we hold them responsibility because they can't respond with ability, or to hold them accountable when we haven't tested to see if they can count? And all of these skills that I hear them saying that they gave to Nick, Cruz, or whatever the case may be, I don't hear anything for the parents.
Yes.
Not every foster parent is a good parent.
Yes.
Correct.
And so when we automatically give the benefit of the doubt to the parent, because politically we need their vote, what does that say to the child who went through that trauma? Sean, you're on, or potentially criminal, you're on deck.
Hey, good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, counselor. What's your pleasure? I'm assuming you already have your appearance on file.
Yeah. You know, and I said this earlier because I was this idea though that you give a case plan to somebody, but yeah, how many times is it followed 100%? But even then, and this is something I once represented a guy. When I was in a public defender's office in Toledo, Ohio. He got sent to the mental hospital to get restored for competency.
Mm-hmm.
They restored his competency, and he came back, and he still believed some crazy stuff. Like he's, you know, that he just wasn't crazy, he still had these delusional beliefs, though. And it's still an issue of sometimes you never figure somebody out. That they may have been doing everything they could, and it just wasn't working. Sometimes things don't take, and that's why it's a practice. Like there's trial and error, and all you could do is keep trying. If X doesn't work, then you change something else. But because there's so many things to change, who knows? Like we don't know if it was where all the plans followed through 100% or as close as they could be, were things just not working. I mean, we really don't know. I mean, you would like to think at the amount of services he did have that something works, but that's sometimes not the case. And I've seen that because I have worked, I take appointments for children's services cases. And yeah, there's sometimes where parents don't care, but there's times where the parents are doing everything they can. Mm-hmm. It's just not working.
Yeah, Sean, I was gonna comment there, and I don't know if you heard me earlier. Being a foster parent, I've seen this, right? And it brings me back to an analogy that I was kind of thinking of. If you ever played with Play-Doh or some other type of medium and made something so hideous or monstrous or anything, I believe that's kind of what we're doing here in some respects, because it's not about child welfare as much as it is about lining each other's pockets.
Well, that is a separate thing there. There is, yes, the amount of providers and, all the different people involved. Yeah, I mean, and Ken, I'm going to say not you, I won't apply this to you, but there are a lot of people who are foster parents because it does generate income.
Absolutely. And no, I've met some of those people.
Yeah. And then there are people who are therapists that are, and because the government pays steady and they can always take the government cases, that they can always take the stuff from the county. There are people all over the place that stand to make money out of this.
Right. So where does that benefit me as a person who really wants to help children? Right. Where does that put me?
Well, even worse, how does that benefit you as a child who needs help?
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, here I am, how many years after being out of the system, and I'm still fighting for help. I'm still trying to find resources that should have been still available to me that I've been trying to track down for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. A fund of $43,000 the state of California set aside for me in a victim witness fund because of their negligence. And I still to this day have not seen a penny of it because they said, oh, well, when California revamped their budget, that fund got reallocated and taxed and, oh, there's nothing left. Come to find out, they actually paid it out to my adoptive parents when I got adopted. So my adoptive parents got paid $43,000 on top of the 19 months of getting paid foster care pay until the actual legal adoption went through. So there's a lot of issues that are cross-contaminated because we're dealing with government agencies, then we're dealing with state agencies, and we're dealing with public, we're dealing with so many different entities, and they're running off of so many different rules and regulations that trying to keep everything straight and follow the rules is difficult. And then trying to go into the gray area, well, you get lost in the gray area. And when the adult get lost, well, where does that leave the kid?
And that's a problem with the way the child welfare system is. I mean, I was a product of the child welfare system myself. At 14, my mother asked for help with me because I was very uncontrollable. And she signed a piece of paper called a Min's petition because she was told that would help. Well, a Min's petition in the state of Illinois means child in need of supervision. And when we went to court, the first thing they did was put me in a juvenile detention center and then made me a ward of the state. I was a ward of the state until I was 18 years old, and they absolutely taught us nothing as children. Nobody wanted to take a 14-year-old boy and bring him into a home permanently. Of course, the foster system, like Sean said, there's a lot of people out there that are in it for the money. And I was placed with a family that had 9 children in their home. 9. And I was, okay, not to be racist, but you can see that I'm white. I was put at a home at 119th and Wentworth in Chicago, which is a very bad, well, at that time, it was a very bad neighborhood. Okay. And Mike, you know, you know, but after I left there, after being abused by the foster father, after I left there, I was put into a group home. And I stayed there until I was 18 years old, basically kicked out onto the street, told, here you go, you're free to go now. You know, during those years after that, I had to learn myself how to be a man, how to raise my children, how to turn around and be a husband to my wife, and keep myself from doing anything stupid. Of course, I'm not perfect. Nobody is. Okay. Made mistakes. Okay. But I had a rule for my boys. Okay. And don't have any girls. All 3 of my children are boys. My boys did not play with toy guns. They didn't play cops and robbers. They didn't play cowboys and Indians. Okay. That way, if they ever did put their hands on a real gun, they would know what it was and not turn around and point it at somebody and accidentally shoot them. They would not turn around and go out and abuse women because I didn't abuse my wife. Okay. I tried to do and teach them from what I saw was wrong in my life as a young man, not to do those things. My father was abusive. My mother was questionable. Still love her, but she's passed now, but loved her to death. She tried as good as she could. But she was lied to about the men's petition and stuff. But like I said, you know, it's up to us to turn around and do the right thing. We can see what's wrong. When we see somebody getting hurt, we know that it's not right. You know, we have the choices to make on how we raise our children. Okay. And do I believe in discipline? Yes. Do I believe in physical discipline? I believe that's up to the individual families. Okay. My discipline to my children was to take things away from them. Okay. They didn't have, at one point, my son did not have anything in his room at all except a mattress. Nothing. No toys, no clothes, no nothing. Because he would not clean his room. Until he learned how to clean his room, he got nothing. And when he started picking things up, then he started getting things back. Okay. Was I right or wrong? I don't know, but it taught him a lesson. You know. But we as a society have to learn how to fix the systems and fix our own families. And teach our children, whether they be boys or girls, how to be self-sufficient. I know how to cook because I had to learn myself. I know how to sew. I know how to do dishes. I know how to clean my house. All those things were self-taught. But my children, I taught them those things also.
I see your background, Ken. Keep going, sir. Hines.
No, I'm done with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is something. It is something.
Hines, sounds like you turned out all right and that your kids did too.
Yes.
I pray for them every day.
As we all do. As we all do. Don't put your head in the bucket. That's gonna be
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a good
yeah
moment here, because those are my kids I was talking about. I don't not allow them to come in and say hi to us. They're my assistants in this journey. I appreciate the perspective. Hines, for sure, that we do have a responsibility. And I wanted to go back to something you said earlier, Mike.
Sure.
You talked about the witnesses giving their impact statements. What would they have said to the shooter had he not done this before, right? What would they have done for him before if they knew he was this messed up? That's the question I want to ask, right? Most people don't see what's really going on in the child welfare system, and they say to themselves, well,
You know,
I met a Mr.
my whole thing is this. If Nicholas Cruz was a senior, and I don't know specific facts, I'm sure he could have been at that age.
Right.
But if Nicholas Cruz was a senior, you got, what's the guy's name? Mark Schaefer, who stated certain things and lost his son, again, condolences. But how many times have those people in the audience as parents, how many times have they seen Nick in school? Is Majority Stoneman Douglas that big of a school where you missed him? How many times has the kids talked about him and seen him and haven't said anything? Not saying that we're justifying it, but we are not going to sit here and ignore, just like Christina said, her son being bullied. Bullying is a cause that triggers stuff like this to occur.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question. And
it's attacking children in the foster care system with mental health issues.
Yes.
And it's putting a blanket over any child that has suffered any of those words being mentioned in a sentence. It automatically gives a negative connotation and puts your head somewhere. Just like if I mentioned I have DID, everybody automatically goes to the movie Split, which is totally off the reservation. So it's this widespread ideal of, yes, they are absolutely valid in their anger. They are valid in the pain and the anguish that they feel, and that they didn't get the suffering and the outcome that they felt was deserved for their pain and suffering. And yeah, I wonder if they had the ability to take a step back from that pain and see it from a different perspective, a different exposure.
Well, and I was going to say, Jen, kind of going off what you're saying, when the one victim who wasn't there but had to speak, and they spoke through the advocate, she talked about all the things that she has to deal with now. And said she can't go into rooms without knowing where to go. Anytime she hears noises, she can't, like her sounds like her going out and about in the world has been pretty much destroyed based upon the things she's suffering trauma-wise, which I don't doubt that could have happened. Like, I fully, that sounds like a very reasonable like a result of being put through all that. But I know her answer is going to be, don't look at me like I'm an emotional IED sitting there waiting to explode. But yet that's what they just did to Nicholas Cruz.
Yeah.
They sat there and dogged on him. And it's like, you just came in and laid out all the issues you got now. And then you're going to come in there and say, oh, but what he had doesn't count. It was rough for everybody. Now it's rough for us.
Call me a victim, but don't treat me like a victim.
Yeah. Yeah. And
and the judge allowed that, by the way.
Well, but they are allowed to dog the defendant. Now, I will say this much as a defense attorney, them crying at the defense like that is like blaming that cornerback for catching that interception. Like, why aren't you turning around looking at the prosecutor saying, like, you guys had it made, it was yours to lose, why didn't you bring home the dub? To sit there and scream at the defense attorneys because they brought home the dub, they brought home the win.
They did.
I mean, that's not, that's their job.
That is their job.
And if Nicholas Cruz was their kid, they would be crying tears of joy that he got life instead of the death penalty.
Yeah.
And that seems to be overlooked.
And that nonsense about like talking about their kids, like, I hate to say it like this, but if that's how you're going, I don't know if like how better off would your kids be with you right now, because you were that person back then too. You
Yeah,
were that
you were the
vile,
same parent.
nasty.
Yeah.
You were that scumbag of a human being back then. Like,
Yeah.
like that last guy that talked, and I could say because I'm a fat guy, that big fat guy talking about this or that. It's like, I'm not sure how, like, you being this living, visceral, disgusting Karen, and the way you talk about stuff, I'm sure you probably weren't much different.
Well, Sean, that you're just hitting what I was thinking when I heard a lot of them speaking. I was saying to myself, well, you guys are the family of the victims, but we don't know you as a person. We don't know your backstory. We don't know if you were good people or bad people.
Well, I
from what
assume
you
you're
guys
not,
are
because
saying, it
that's what you're
doesn't sound like
showing.
you are very compassionate people.
Yeah.
So I had mixed feelings, but I'm glad that that man that spoke on the attorneys on the defense said to the judge that he wanted them to stop allowing these people to say such hateful things toward his attorneys, which I agreed with him. And I'm glad that he spoke up for his attorneys, because it wasn't right. And the judge just dismissed him the way she did, disrespectful to him. I felt like, wow.
Yeah, but
that's Florida.
That was an ongoing thing though throughout this judge had no love lost for them. But yeah, like especially that one guy with the slicked hair and the nice suit, when he came out and gave his really good speech. Like, Mike, you remember I was just losing it on that guy when I was sitting at stoplights and messaging in. Like, that guy, I guarantee you, like, had his kids never been killed, I guarantee you he is some sort of top tier douchebag in his life in general.
Dude.
Like, you don't suffer the trauma and then become this, that doesn't change you. The trauma just magnifies the flaws you have.
Yes.
It's always been my experience. But
Can we juxtapose that against the? Go ahead. I'm
that
sorry.
anger transfers to the children, and I kind of wonder how many of those kids had some bully streaks in them because they picked up that behavior from their parents, and they thought that the behavior was okay.
I wouldn't even go that far. I just wonder how many of those kids are treated like crap by their parents.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Not necessarily that they treated Nicholas Cruz bad, but just how many of those kids were getting rode hard by their parents. Because I could say in my life, I'm very fortunate. I haven't had to go through some of the things you guys have been through.
And that's what I'm saying.
But I've been able to see it.
As a mother, as a human being, I was trying to have compassion for the families of the victims. But as I was hearing them speak on their feelings about Cruz, I could not agree with them anymore. I could not have compassion for them, because what they were saying is just evil and hateful. And I didn't think that it was okay for them to. I get when they say the witnesses have the right to say what they want to say. I get that. I've been a victim. My father was murdered, and I've been through a lot of other stuff. But for the judge to say it's okay for them to say what they want because the defense was sticking the finger up during, the trial, or they were acting out of character. Is that two wrongs don't make a right, and she's the judge. She should have done her job way better. I think she failed. And I think that these people, I don't know them personally, but when they started to speak on how they felt about the whole situation, one, they don't get it, and they don't have compassion. And so does arrogance. In my eyes, I don't see them as good people either.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I got to
totally
bounce.
agree. They had arrogance about them, that they were the victims, but heaven forbid you treat them like a victim, and that their anger and their feelings and their opinions should override what our democracy states. And in our democracy, it states that a jury gets to decide. A jury of his peers, of their peers. And the fact that they're blaming the defense team, it's their job. Like, what is he supposed to just sit there at a table and take everything and not have a defense team? He pleaded guilty. And what scares me is that the arrogance that they have of the
they've been wronged all over again. And how dare the jury and the defense team do this to them?
And that's part of the
It
process.
scares me of what they're going to do or what that arrogance is going to turn into, and then take things into their own hand. Because as we've seen over the past 6 years, the theme is, well, when the system fails, we take things into our own hands and we deal with them ourselves.
Yes.
But it's
Well,
like,
I do want to at least fight for one of the victim impact statements. That
Sure.
the lady that was from Great Britain who lost her child, she did have a very good statement. And I happened to be on, I think it was Crime and TV stream at the time, and the comments there were, why does she have to make this a political argument? Why should she be talking about politics? What does this have to do with any of it? It's like,
got everything
part of the political. I mean, like, come on, like,
Yep.
I just couldn't understand the logic of some of the commenters
Yeah.
to think that a person who is actually trying to come up with a very cogent reason to explain what's going on in an impact to her life from a stance of, I understand what it takes to raise a child, and my child was dang near perfect, because she talked about how perfect her child was with some of the testing and stuff like that. But I just couldn't rectify it. I'm like, where is the solution then with that logic? That you can snuff out her testimony, what she has to say, but then applaud all these other ones. I didn't get it.
But Nicholas Cruz could have been a Daryl Brooks talking about subject matter jurisdiction, interlocutory appeals. So,
Let's not go there, man. I had a good
That's a
time with
whole nother
that case.
thing.
That's a totally different thing. But
That's a
yeah,
whole
like,
nother
he
thing.
could have been driving through a parade. You're right. He could have been driving.
He could have been. And the thing is, we're not trying to compare that one is better or worse than the other. But one thing that I definitely will say, and then I'll open it up for you all for final thought, is that I wonder now, will they go back? Because school is in session right now. Will they go back and pay attention to the Nicholas Cruzes that are still at Parkland High School? Oh,
You
the
want
one.
an answer to that?
Oh, yeah. Are you going to go back and pay attention to the ones that no one pays attention to? Are you going to teach other people, hey, let's be kind to others and try to help others? Are you going to teach this community, or is it really a community of the haves, and put those foster adoptive kids in this corner and ignore them? Because that's how you get another Nicholas Cruz again.
Do you want a response? I'm having a hard time responding.
It doesn't have to have a response.
I think the question for me is, were any of those parents sane or involved in the community before it happened to their kids?
I will tell you, as a person
What's their
who lives in
involvement
Miami,
now?
who lives in Miami and has
Yes.
been to Broward County several times, including that area, it really depends. It really depends on the area. And when it comes to Parkland, I don't believe many of the folks in that area care about other folks. They care about themselves. I mean,
That's clear. That was clear to
ultimately
see.
it, right?
Mhm.
And that's
you
a
can see
big
that
problem
clearly
with
in the
America today.
Absolutely, Heinz. And that's why I really appreciate your comments too. I really feel like this is a discussion of how do you make perspectives come back to a societal norm that says, hey, I have a different perspective than you, but that's fine. We can still support this idea. We can still do this from each other's perspectives.
We can still find a compromise.
Because when Mary came on, everybody thought that she was, and I was like, nope. If the one thing I learned in my experience, do not respond to an opinion you don't agree with. Let it sizzle, let it sit, because we're going to find some common ground in this.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, brother. We can make a way out of no way, right?
My God, that was amazing. All
Yeah.
of y'all, Christina, Jen, Hines, Ken, potentially criminal, Sean, Mary Jane, and everybody in the comments. Shanice, you all have been awesome. Final thoughts. Go.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to share our opinions and beliefs. I appreciate everyone that came on here. I learned a little bit from everyone, and thank you guys for sharing as well. And thank you for being a foster parent. When I used to be a foster advocate when I was in the system. I used to advocate for foster youth, that the importance of getting adopted when we get into the system, instead of being passed around from house to house to house. So thank you for becoming a foster dad. I'm sure that you're a great dad. Thank you for that.
And that's actually what I'm about to do. If y'all follow me like on Facebook, and I had a picture of me doing an interview, I'm actually about to be what's called a CASA advocate, which is a court-appointed special advocate for children. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. How many of y'all can see me doing that?
You can wear that judge outfit too.
Hey, look. I am all for helping children because it's gotta change. And it's like parents who are willing to do the work. That's why I value what ended up happening at the end of this. See, it's beautiful that out of tragedy with Nicholas Cruz's sentencing hearing came this. And
Yes.
this is how we start to do the change, by recognizing and talking about these traumas. Now, what if there are some kids that watch this and now it reignites their hope that someone can hear us now?
Yes.
I would say no matter how hopeless, how dark, how scary, how alone you feel, there is somebody who will empathize and sympathize and bend over backwards to help. And it looks like this community is exactly that. And I am quite surprised. I have not had one person yell at me. That's the
You don't do that. Not in this community.
Both to Ted and to Mike and to anybody else out there who does foster care adoption, who is able to see things from both sides. Thank you. And I see you and I hear you, and please keep it up.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all. All right. Anybody else who had final thoughts?
Hey, Mike.
Go ahead, Hines.
Hey, Mike. I just I invite you to come out to Marengo and let's put some holes in some paper.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. To do that.
I don't know if you heard about it,
but God bless her soul.
Hey, we're all entitled to our opinions, correct?
Absolutely. I love it. I love the fact that she came up because there's a place for her and her opinions for sure. I love it.
We just got to remember our rights are not trumped by opinions.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Agreed.
Christina, you got the number, right?
Your number, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Did you get my text?
Oh, let me check now.
And just real quickly before I get off, I am not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person.
Sure.
And it's in my heart to just say I love each and every one of you guys. Have a blessed day.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Thank you for sharing. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here and definitely sharing. And I would definitely, I'm invested, Christina. I'm invested in the outcomes of your son and yourself, and whatever I can put me to my proof, put me to my challenge. I gave you the number 773-644-5000.
Thank you.
You got a partner
Much
in
love
this.
to you, Christina.
Thank you.
And to
Thank
your
you,
sons.
guys.
Yes, you got a partner in this. So put me to my proof. Let's go. You got a partner in this. You're not by yourself, and that's the thing. You can't have resources without relationships.
Yeah, and Christina, feel free to reach out to me too.
I will. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I echo that too. And Mike, I just wanted to say my final thought. I
Yeah.
see your passion here on this channel. I came in during the Darrell Brooks trial, and we had some good times. I'm glad to be on your show. Thank you for doing this for me, for everybody else here, giving us the opportunity to really hash this out. keep doing what you're doing. Let me know how I can help you for
Outstanding.
sure, because I definitely want to do
That's
that.
right. He looked like a lawyer. I was like, oh, counselor, what's your pleasure?
Yeah, whatever, man. Hey, like you said, it takes resources. People need to
Yeah.
be aware. I think this is a great platform for people to really find a better perspective.
Yes, sir.
Because we're coming from
And Mike,
various different places.
let me just tell you real quick. I've never done this. I've never got on here. I didn't even know how this was going to work or how it works. This is my first time sharing my opinion, giving my voice, and I've never actually seen you live. And I had to, when I scrolled and I seen you live and I went on there to listen. I said, "Am I following? How am I seeing him?" And then I made sure that I was following you. And I said, "Wow, Lord, thank you, because I needed to hear this. I needed to be on here, and I know that God did put you in my life for a reason to help me out, because I need His help." And last night I was praying to the Lord, and I said, "I need your help, Lord. I need your help." And this is His way. And so I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
And I've committed my life in service to the people. So who am I not to answer that call? Things happen for a reason. So
thank you.
Make it happen. Make it
And I
happen.
normally don't listen to a lot of commentary things or get involved because of how charged and opinionated it can get.
Sure.
And how people get very stubborn, very set. So it's really nice to have a very relaxed, non-triggering, non-igniting conversation and commentary.
Yeah. Well, you were home here, and I knew you were going to provide a lot of value. Are you trying to end it, Hines? I can remove it if you want.
No.
Oh no! I thought you were trying. He was like, I'm pressing the X and it's not working.
No, I think he was typing, right? You were typing to Jen. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's a testament to who you are, Mike, though. You've done it.
Okay.
For sure.
Mike, we're having a side conversation.
Oh
yeah. I think we've made some new friends here.
That's what's important.
So.
That's what's important. Absolutely.
In Hines, I texted you.
Yeah, I saw. So I see y'all. Y'all definitely made friends. So I look at it like this. I knew you were going to provide value when you came up here, Jen. And the thing is that providing that platform for people to be able to use their voice. Because the irony, the Black National Anthem is lift every voice and sing, but that's the one thing that people get denied is their voice. And if you get denied your voice, how do you ever learn?
Exactly. And if you get denied even being able to speak, even if it doesn't make sense, even if the words aren't articulated, the ability to express and outwardly display what is internalized it's a travesty.
Sure. Outstanding. All right, y'all. So that's the end for today. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we will be going live around 8 p.m. for Trigger with Instructor Mike and Friends. Hope to have the friends on here. We're going to still have a great show. This was great to everybody that came on the panel. Again, I'm TV Judge Mike. I am not a judge. I am not a lawyer. This is for educational purposes and entertainment in certain cases only. This is not legal advice, but my job is to make sure that not only do you get yourself on the range and get trained, but actually train yourself, heal from your traumas so that your children can have better outcomes, because what you don't heal from and what you don't master, you will put up into your kids, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
No problem. All of you all be safe. And
thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Court is in recess.